The item we've just been discussing was based in part on a press release from the Scottish Council for Voluntary Organisations, which accused the democratically elected government of the UK of criminal cuts to welfare, as we've just been discussing. Elsewhere today, we've heard a politician say that another lies instinctively, and words like crisis and catastrophe fill the press releases sent out on behalf of public figures. Are these things simply attempts to have a point of view heard, or is the very currency of debate being devalued?
But before we move to decision time, I would like to return to the points of order raised earlier.
There's no doubt that politics is a serious business and that disagreements run deep and are held genuinely. And there's no doubt personal animosity and simple competitiveness contribute to the level, volume and style of debate. But can it go too far? Today, Labour's Richard Baker issued a press release about Alex Salmond under the heading "Salmond Lies Instinctively." Earlier in the day, the UK Green Party spoke of an environmental catastrophe if some government targets were missed. The Scottish Council for Voluntary Organisations, as we've seen, described the UK government welfare policy as criminal. Last weekend, Scottish Labour issued a press release about Scottish Parliament in crisis over the education statistics. While the SNP said that former fire-raiser Lord Mike Watson rejoining Labour was an insult to those whose lives he'd endangered. Now, all of these issues are serious, and some may even be justified, but if the first response to anything is to reach for extreme language, is that really helping to inform and persuade voters? Well, I'm joined in the studio now by the writer Katie Grant, and from Edinburgh by Simon Peer, a political sketch writer and a former Labour spin doctor. Is everything getting exaggerated, Simon Peer? I mean, look, you just heard Martin Syme there. He's clearly passionately holds the views he's got, and he argues them rather well. Perhaps he would have been better placed not to accuse the government of being a bunch of criminals if he wanted to get his point over.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have sympathy with Martin, not just in Scotland, throughout the UK, but he undermines his own argument by describing it as criminal, misuse of the English language. It's not against the law, and I think you do lose sympathy when you make your argument in that manner. I also think if the unionist parties are just going to go around calling Alex Salmond a liar all the time, although, you know, he has been found out making things up. He's been caught out 3 times in a row, but it doesn't help. And I think you're right,
you can say when someone's caught out, liar, liar, pants on fire.
Yes.
But to say, as was said today, Alex Salmond is an instinctive liar, as if he's suffering from some severe personality defect, is a completely different matter.
Well, I'd agree with you on that. I think the choice of the word instinctive was incorrect. He probably thinks about it when he chances his arm a bit when he bandies about statistics, because Alex Salmond does that in the chamber a lot, and he makes it up as he goes along, and that's been a criticism of him dating back to the previous Parliament. But I think that politicians and advocates for this SCVO like Martin Syme, they should leave it to people like Katie Grant and myself to use language. Leave it to us in the media to use the emotive.
Never dream of using language like that, would you?
Well, I wouldn't. But the thing is, politicians, I don't know whether Simon agrees, but they're lazy. C.S. Lewis had a great saying. He said that people use words like appalling and criminal and all liar and all these other things because they're just leaving the reader to make it up for themselves. So it's an idle way of insulting people. They don't think. They use hyperbole. The language is exhausted. Martin Syme's undermined his own argument by making it with completely intemperate language, talking about chaos and mayhem.
Well, he's not here to defend himself, and he did make some very powerful arguments.
He made some very powerful points. I agree, but by using, when politicians and people advocating a cause permanently use hyperbole, it loses any kind of meaning. I mean, everything now is a tragedy. It doesn't matter if it's a tsunami, it's a tragedy. If it's 3 trains being cancelled, it's some kind of tragedy or a catastrophe. We have no balance. We cry wolf all the time, and nobody really listens anymore.
It's not just about language, is it? Because we were supposed to, if you believed any of our politicians here, be entering into a period of very serious debate about the future of Scotland, very, very serious debate, very high-level stuff. When's that ever going to happen?
You see, that's for everybody else, but the politician themselves, the one who's speaking, just launches into this hyperbole because they don't know what else to do. We have very poor speakers in this country. They're not good at thinking on their feet. They reach for these words because they think they're somehow going to sort of make their point more powerfully, without realising that in fact these kind of words just wash over the viewer and the listener, because it's just like crying wolf all the time. I mean, where is this meltdown? Where is this chaos? Where is this catastrophe?
Is that what you felt about the lot you used to work for?
I think George Orwell famously said our language becomes ugly and inaccurate because our thoughts are foolish. And
yeah, but that was George Orwell. The problem is Scottish politicians never say anything memorably. That's the problem, isn't it?
Well, I think when you're going to insult people or use emotive language and hyperbole, satire and wit are the best weapons to use, and that is why I say people like Katie or myself or other columnists, politicians should leave it to us to make the comments. Like, we're the jesters on the slide who will make jibes at them. But if they are wanting to be taken seriously by the public at large, and I am concerned about how Scottish society is going to get polarised over the next 2 years with the referendum debate.
Well, let's talk about that.
The ante has been raised already, and the language is getting more visceral,
yes,
more abusive, and the reasoned, rational debate we all want is getting lost in this name-calling.
And people just turn off. They just don't listen.
But hang on, I'm not sure. Is Simon Pearce right to say that it's up to jesters in the media? I mean, look at Vince Cable when he came up with his Stalin to Mr. Bean remark.
Yes.
That did an endless amounts of good.
I suspect somebody made that up for him, don't you think? I sort of think somebody had made that up for him. Simon would know better. But some of the best remarks have, of course, been made by politicians who have... Boris Johnson is quite good. I mean, he makes gaffes, but he
Dennis
makes them in... the savage like a dead...
Yeah.
Like a dead sheep. Yes, absolutely.
Remember that.
Yes, absolutely. And you remember about Neville Chamberlain. He was a man who was a modest man with much to be modest about, but nobody comes up with these kinds of things nowadays, partly because...
Empty cab pulled into Downing Street and Mr. Aptley got out.
Yes, I mean, they don't know... Why have we lost that? I don't know. I think it's because politicians, they don't read enough, they don't have enough of a hinterland, they never use language apart from to make speeches on the stump.
Simon Pearce, I'm just interested in picking up on something you said, because there is an issue. There is a thing about this debate about independence, isn't there, that both sides use the word visceral. There's an element in Labour that believes this is not a normal political argument. The SNP are not a normal political party. This is not like having an argument with the Tories over policy. There's an element in the SNP that thinks this is a cause, not a policy, and have staked their entire careers on it. It could get very nasty, isn't it? Couldn't it?
Yes, I think we see these trending already. I mean, the Cybernats have operated below the surface in Scottish politics for the last few years. It's very nasty and abusive stuff. I mean, I've known some politicians who've been quite distressed from the stuff that's been flung in their direction. A lot of it's on social media, but they'd say they're simply airing an opinion, which is fair enough. Yeah, but
anyway, briefly, do you think it's going to get worse? We're running out of time.
Yes, I think it is going to get worse. I think the language is going, and I think people are going to turn off. I think people won't listen.
People turn off. Right. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you both very much indeed.
Thank you.